like it. Not to mention, it's like, man, people out here, which is shocking, but yeah.
What's up? What's up?
Yeah, because I look like a freaking thief.
You do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's my word. But that's all right, though. I was going to start off with, you came out and said shiesty promoter. I wasn't expecting you to say that, but that has been, yo, you talk about, man.
Let's be real.
All right. Let's see here. Well, when I say shiesty, I'm gonna say shiesty to me.
Hold on. Before we get into it, to the viewers, thank you for being here today. We're about to spill some hot tea for you. Get to learn a little bit more also about Panther. He's a pro wrestler, and you already know it's your favorite Jedi, BMF Goddess. Panther, thanks for being here today. You want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Alright, well, basically, I was born in Barrio, you know what I'm saying, raised in the South Bronx. I grew up in Soundview. Been wrestling since forever, but, I don't know, my mind right now, I don't know, you got me with the shiesty promoter thing, and I'm like, man, for this past couple of weeks, that's all I've been dealing with, and I'm like, oh my God. And then when you said that, I thought of a story of, I'm going to say a promoter. Now, he was, whether he's shiesty with somebody else, I don't know. But it was a promoter in the Bronx. Personally, he's a great guy, promoter. Another ball game. First time I debuted in 2013. He's paid me pretty good.
Yeah.
Say what? I thought you said something. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Because, you know, the audience, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to write them below. We'll answer them. I was just saying hi to somebody. You can continue.
All right, my bad. So, the dude paid me good now. It was supposed to be a build-up because I was going to go against my brother who, you know, we resemble each other, whatever. And the second time, okay, and mind you, this is a territory where I'm not really well known. So for them to even, you know, gravitate towards me and be towards me, it was a whole other book. I was like, well, damn, he can't front. And now he had more people wanted to come because they wanted to see me and my brother go at it. Okay, I'm thinking that payoff is going to be better than the last one, considering bigger crowd, better to pay off, whatever. Oh my God. When I tell you, I kid you not, when I tell you, it was less than half what he gave me originally. Oh, man. Yo, and the reason why I consider that shiesty is because I guess I befriended him too much in the gym to where he felt like, okay, well, you know, he's a compadre, I'm just going to hit him over the... Oh, hell. That was probably a mistake I made. I didn't keep it business, you know what I mean? Because, you know, people tend to forget wrestling's a business, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta conduct yourself like you're your own pimp or whatever. And that's one example. Another example would be a promoter in Brooklyn. Oh. This was worse than not getting paid. This is like, I'm the real though. He was the only dude I ever met, the only promoter I ever met, that he would literally walk to ringside while the match is going on. You're wrestling, now you're thinking, okay, the referee's in his own position, when in reality, hell no. Referee's talking to the promoter at ringside, the referee, promoter telling, yo, tell him to stop the match or do I mean, oh God have mercy.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
that was just bad. I've been to, and another thing too, and this is all over the United States, which is really bad. But I started doing some research, and I did a lot of studying, and I said, and I'm a student of the game all day long. You know what I mean? Whether it's rap music, I mean, real MCs. I'm talking like Big Pun and Big L. Half these people don't even know who they are. And they had, I'm not to change the subject, but they had this versus battle recently. I think it was the Locks and Dipset.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I don't care how many hits you think the Dipset had. Lyrically, they're not touching the Locks. They can't, they don't even come close. I put up a thing of KRS-One. I said, let's see the Dipset battle him. Oh, shit, it ain't gonna happen, but that's another ball game. So anyway, this promoter, you know what I mean? I've dealt with oh my gosh. I had a small argument with a guy, a debate, if you will, because he was trying to tell me there's no money in the independents. That's why promoters are working at a break-even or less type of scale. I told him he couldn't be more wrong because I know a lot of dudes who's making a good living working in the independents. And on top of that, he's got the balls to tell me, yeah, those dudes are lying. They're not making that much money. I was like, yeah, okay. If you're going to travel to Japan, travel to Mexico working a few indies, and do some indies out here, there ain't no hell you're going to tell me that you're not making no bread. There's just no way. And the research that I did, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And this goes into the shiesty part. This ties in together with that. And the reason why I told him, listen, back in the, I didn't tell him this, but I did my research, and, back in the days, when the territory system was around, you could call that now like the indie scene, so to speak. Because even though you had the territory system, you always had that one or two major companies that you want to get down with, or three, whether it was the WWF, AWA, or NWA. And of course you had other spots, but those are the three major ones you wanted to get down with. And back then, you would think that compared to now, there was so much money being made in these territories. And I'm thinking, with all these indies now, how the hell there's no money? How? There's this, certain fans draw 100. You cannot count, and this is another thing promoters get it twisted on. You cannot pay your dues off the gate. It can't be done. It can be done.
Explain for the people who don't understand it.
Well, what the gate is basically the tickets being sold for the house. The house is the arena or the venue, whatever venue you choose to present your wrestling product or whatever. The thing is, here's the wild part about that. Is it raining? Oh, I'm wilding out. Let me take off my umbrella real quick. But yeah, the wild thing about that is, most promoters, they would literally, my bad, Puerto Rican flag got in the way. But most promoters, they count on the gate, the ticket sales to pay their wrestlers, and you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to have the pay already there, long before the doors even open. I've seen dudes bust their ass. Literally bust their ass for like $15, $20, and for like maybe 50 to 100 people, still get next to nada. And and this one dude came out and said, well, a lot of these things is a bad practice that's been going on since back in the days where promoters are pocketing money with the booker. I said, hell, that's going on right now, but the sad part is, you got too many companies in one state. When you got a state that's producing so many indie feds, everybody's going to cut everybody's throat. There's one company This one company and the promoter didn't even pay me when I wrestled for him twice, mind you. This one company was bragging about throwing 70 shows a year, and I thought that was official. I thought that was like, damn, that's badass, and they do. You know what I'm saying? And I told him, well, how many dudes on that roster are actually making a living off the 70 shows a year? Out of 100%, I guarantee you less than 5. Unless you're a big name. And he said, his thing was, well, a lot of these indie companies are operating at a loss. That's how they operate. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, this guy thinks I'm a pendejo. And there's just no freaking way. If you promote right, got the right location, the right wrestlers, and the right presentation of what you want the people to see, or what you want to project, there's no way in hell you can't make money. There's no way. He got the balls to tell me that these dudes that making money are freaking lying. Promoters are shiesty, man. I mean, golly.
What would be your advice to the wrestlers, as far as that goes, with the shitty promoters?
You're going to run into shiesty promoters any which way you go. It's how you deal with the sharks, really. And the sad part is you got a lot of green talent, a lot of young talent that, and this goes for a lot of the older ones too, where they whore themselves out to these companies and wrestle for practically next to nothing. And they don't realize you're hurting the next man trying to make bread and a living. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, that is just off the hook. And that became sort of, how do I say, a pandemic in the wrestling business, in a sense that, you know, promoters is like, well, if this guy don't want to wrestle for me because he's charging $150, $200, I'm going to get the next man that's going to pay him just $20, $25. You know what I mean? And not really care, you know, as long as he gets the money from the ticket sales and concession. You know what I mean? And that's shiesty, man. I've seen it done. And I tell a lot of these green guys, these young guys, the guys you're talking about, me talking to, you got to remember, you got a skill set. You know, you're a professional. You're not just a backyard jabroni or a greenhorn or whatever you want to call it, playing wrestling. You know, you're doing this because, you know, you want to make money. You want to, you know, you're doing it for the love of it too as well. But I'm just saying, you got a skill set. You're a professional. The word professional dictates that you got to get paid for the skill you have. And a lot of guys just pimp themselves up just to be on the show. I mean, it's one thing paying your due. Let me throw that in there. It's one thing when you pay your dues. It's another thing where, you know, you got the professional 8x10s, credible training from a reputable school. You know, you've had seminars and you trained with so many different people and so on. They know your pedigree and they still gonna shortchange you. Hell no. You got a skill set. Your ass has got a freaking...
Litor Zoloff. She agrees with you. She said hallelujah.
Yeah. Hello, is this an interview or a what?
Or gangland. He's covering his face for a reason.
Well, you know what? It could be both. To tell you the truth, because there's a lot of stuff that don't be... Yo, a lot of people don't be saying that. And it's sad. It's like they throw these young green guys to the wolves.
I respect the real shit. You bring the real shit. Tell us the real shit.
Yo,
people, you know, they're too afraid to.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of them are afraid to talk like that. You know, a lot of them are afraid to talk like that or the subject because they're afraid of getting blackballed or not booked or something.
Right.
And in reality, not every promoter is cheap. Let me get that straight. I'm not saying every promoter is shiesty. You're going to run into quite a good one. And how you know the good ones are, you know, is look at their stuff on YouTube or whatever channel they have or what have you, or streaming service and see them with their stuff, you know, and go by that or go to one of their shows and see what's up, you know. Not every promoter is shiesty like that. Not every promoter is cheap. That I can tell you. years ago. I'm gonna say about 15 years ago. I was wrestling for this ECW original dude, Tommy Cairo, Iron Man Tommy Cairo, and he was starting a company, or he had the company. He was the starter of the Force One Pro Wrestling, and you would think, he's gonna be a maceta with the money, and but I was starting to say to myself, you know what? I've known this dude since I was 15, 16, and he knows my trainer. We have the same circle of friends and so on. Okay, after the first night, I guess everybody's lined up, ready to get their pay. I'm thinking, like, this is around Atlantic City, mind you. So I'm thinking I'm going to get lit, spend bread, I'm going to just party my ass off because, might as well, right? When he broke me off. I was shocked. That was one of the first highest paid indie gigs I've ever had. And I ain't lying.
That's
I
awesome.
was like, yes, and it's rare. He did that because, and it goes by experience. I could say that in a way.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't use that.
Miss she said it's oftentimes fear of rejection. But what I say is you have the footage to back your skills, like a resume, and get paid. I agree.
Right. I totally agree because it's a skill set you have. It's like, if you're a boxer, not to compare boxing to wrestling, but it's sort of similar in the sense that you're not going to box for any promoter and get your face pounded in for like a couple of $100 when this promoter is making thousands off of you. You know what I'm saying? The same thing with wrestling. A lot of guys are afraid to speak up. Another thing, and I'm going to say this, some promoters and bookers also are trainers. There's also something else I wanted to talk about real quick, and I'm going to get back to the original subject at hand, but there's a thing going on, it's been going around for ages, where you got trainers taking advantage of their students, and I'm not talking about male students either. I'm talking about female students. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these female students, they get their eyes all wide open, thinking like, all right, I'm a trained, work the indie circuit, and go to either WWE, AEW, or like I said, Japan, Mexico, what have you, and I've heard some wild stories, man. I mean, and one girl, let me give you an example. And this is not even, I don't know if the sex offending charge is true or not, because in one particular gym, this dude was, they said he was a registered sex offender, but apparently he's still training, so I'm assuming, legally, if he was a sex offender, he wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm assuming he's legal, for the most part.
Until you're proven guilty, you could be whatever.
Yeah. But this girl, when I asked her who trained her, she was mad hesitant to tell me it was this particular individual. And a lot of people are afraid to get outed, and not outed, but like judged, I guess, or blackballed, and me, I'll go by the term que se joda. Because, not for nothing, there's plenty of companies out there that I know that pay. I mean, matter of fact, right now, I got August 21st in Leesburg, Florida for Shadow Wrestling Alliance, and I got a pending date coming in for September 11th, a company called Knockout. So that's going to be something I'm going to look forward to. But there's companies out here that pay, there's companies out here that will give you what you need,
For any women facing that type of disrespect, when you're trying to make it in the wrestling business, should never allow it.
Yeah.
You out that motherfucker. You're not gonna lose.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm not gonna. That's beyond heat. That's more like nuclear holocaust.
Right, but the one that's
I'm gonna tell you one thing. I'm gonna speak about it.
The trainer.
But they know who they are. Believe me, they know who they are. And that's all over the United States. That's just not here in Florida or Texas or something like that. Because I heard a stories in Texas too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And one individual, and it's a famous school. And the stories I heard, and here's the wild part: it's one thing when you got one person talking about it, but when you got several people that don't even know each other talking about the same story, I don't know. There's an issue there. So this particular individual was training with this person. This person, of course, because of their accolades and they felt who they were associated with, and lo que sea, it was, pretty much trying to take advantage of me. And the guy was basically saying, well, if you do this, this, and that, I could hook you up with more bookings or put you here and there. And no, but believe it or not, the dude already knows he's got heat over that, major heat. So he used to post on Facebook every day, several times a day. He don't post now that anymore. He might leave a comment here and there, but it's wild because this very same individual is a booker for a good company, but supposedly his girlfriend was one of his students, and I believe they're either gonna get engaged or married. I'm not too sure, but it's wild though because she done major shows for major companies. I'm thinking, holy crap. And I say this to all the young girls. I mean, go to a reputable school, and if you feel uncomfortable with the individual, wow, there's many schools. You got the Wild Samoan Training Center in Mineola. I mean, as far as in Florida, everywhere else, I'm not really quite sure. You got Pro Wrestling 2.0 in Alex Porto in Orlando. You got CCW in Pompano Beach. Oh my gosh, what other, there's another school. You got Francisco Chiazzo, this Italian dude. He's got the World Wrestling Network Training Center out in around the Tampa area. Of course you got the WWE PC, but to get in there, that's a whole other ball game. Believe it or not, if you know somebody, you can. But the training in there.
The business is very much who you know, even on the indie scene with the promoters. So I can stand the promoters who's all, they're gonna put all their friends up and
that's another thing too. I have a big pet peeve about promoters booking themselves in the top tier in the card. Like top, mid card and main event. And there's quite a few promoters that wrestle that do that. And the sad part is, most of these promoters suck in the ring. I mean, they literally. And I'm not saying that to be
completely terrible. That's like the only place they will ever get any shine. I find that to be just it's a pet peeve of mine as well. Like, what you put yourself up there for, especially when you don't deserve to be there. Just because it's your shit, you're a fucking
and I've seen a lot of them do that. Where they book themselves up there like that, and. My thing is this. There's nothing wrong with a promoter wrestling, but if you're going to book yourself up there like that all the time, and then you suck. It's one thing if you wrestle and you're nice like that.
Yeah.
Not only you telling a story, but people are believing in what you're doing in the ring. That's different. But when you go in there, you literally suck. I mean, oh, God have mercy. I know a lot of promoters like that. As a matter of fact, there's one promoter in the Bronx, not going to mention his name, great guy, beautiful man, there's no question about it. No question about it. He's a great guy. But always books himself in the top. I'm thinking like, oh my God. There was this one guy, the promoter's son. He acted like he was a promoter. This was in Brooklyn. And he must have had that championship that he had for I ain't gonna lie to you, since damn near well over 10 years. And when it came time for him,
that's way fucking excessive, bro. Like, what are you?
I ain't lying to you. Past 10 years, I
wouldn't even work for that guy. Like, are you serious?
No, that's just the son. The son was the champion for 10 years. When it came time for him to pass the torch, if you know what I'm saying, Um, he literally bitched and complained to his mama. His mama went to the daddy, who's the promoter, and said, "Listen, this, and that, this, and that."
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the torch was never passed. And I was like, I mean, I go to tell you, I'm telling you, these promoters out here be wilding. But my main concern, honestly, and I think it should be done, is a wrestlers union. Because these promoters got the balls to say, and some of these guys associated with the
That I agree with, but number one, I wish there was a motherfucking, you gotta get a license or fucking take a test to be a promoter or open a fucking school. Because too many individuals who are not qualified by any means have money, so they open a school or they start training other people, and or they're a fucking promoter and they have no, like, there's no reason they should be doing that. What's the fucking ever? It's too easy.
I agree.
It's to make it way harder. Like, here, you gotta take this test before you qualify. Because
you know what?
it's ridiculous.
It's funny you mentioned that because years ago, many years ago, I'm going way back. In order for you to get your wrestling license in New York, you had to have a co-signer, basically your trainer, and a reputable trainer at that, not just any guy who comes out and says, "Yo, I'm a trainer." But if this dude got, he's reputable, and he don't got a history in the business, and hell no, he has to be official. And back then, that's what they did. So, and what you just said reminded me of that. I'm thinking, man, they should bring that back because anybody in their mama can get a promoter's license, buy a wrestling ring from Monster or High Spots, rent a place, go on Facebook and book dudes. Anybody could do that. But,
and then,
it's a business. It's a
where they're showing these dudes the wrong shit.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
That's why so many of the new generation pro wrestlers, I say that loosely, wrestlers, they're doing all this they don't, first of all, number one, they don't know how to respect the business or respect the locker room or respect the fucking...
Go back. You said respect the locker room. In what way? I've heard that before a few times. That's what I'm asking.
There are a few ways. One being just respecting, especially your what's the word?
Because I'm trying to figure you out because you're breaking it down like you're about to get.
They walk in like they have a big head and they could do this and they all that, and really you have a lot to learn. Fucking humble.
Yeah. There was a guy, and by respect for me, I always tell a lot of young guys, always offer a veteran your seat. You know what I'm saying? And don't go up to a guy way more experienced than you dictating a bunch of junk. Because all that's going to do is get you either stretched in the ring.
But for anything you're asking, what do you feel comfortable doing in this match or whatever the case is?
It's not even that. It's proper locker room etiquette. You're going up to a veteran, you're going to dictate a bunch of junk. It's not going to wind up too good. You know what I'm saying? From 9 out of 10 times. Unless you get a nice guy who's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to be willing to work with this dude, but if he pops off, I'm setting it.
You know this kind of stuff firsthand. Can you give us any example? Have you ever gone through any type of, just annoyances?
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. I was a virtual unknown in this particular part of town that I was wrestling in, and well, suffice it to say, after a while, the fan base grew and people started, as what do you call that, a baby face, a good guy, people was like really gravitating towards me. Because I was always somehow in the neighborhood, because I lived in the neighborhood actually where this promotion's home base was. And so I'm chilling, and at this point, I already had at least a couple of decades in, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting down chilling, putting on my boots because it takes me like damn near 3 years just to put on my boots. Golly, I hate that. Word up, yeah. It takes me forever to put on some damn things.
I've seen the process. It's pretty.
Yeah, man. It takes me longer to get dressed than it does to wrestle. But so it do. It really freaking does. So I'm sitting, I'm chilling. I'm like this, whatever. Just throwing the thing, getting ready, throwing the band, whatever, and I had no idea who I was wrestling. And through my peripheral, and I'm hearing saying, "Well, there's Panther over there changing. That's the guy you're wrestling." So on, whatever number we was at the time, I think it was like 3 or 4 or something like that. And after an intermission, and he was telling me, "Well, I do this, and that. I do this and that. I want to be able to do this and that." He was saying a bunch of stuff, and don't get it twisted. I was paying attention to what he was saying.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like, I know this dude is not dictating this. There's just no way out. So the first thing I said was like, hold on a second. Scratch all that, and basically what I told him after that, in so little words, is that we got to conduct business the right way. By business I mean, what we do in the ring.
Yeah.
And basically we did. We conducted business the right way, and it actually turned out to be one of the great matches of that card, one of the best matches of that night. Along with this female that freaking German suplex this dude on the floor, I was dying. That had me wilded out. But it did, because I'm watching this girl wrestle because she's an actual, believe it or not, she's an actual amateur wrestling standout. Had amateur wrestling titles, all that. I think it's NCAA Division 1 or 2, I can't remember, but she's an amateur wrestling standout, many titles. She probably could have went to the Olympics. That's how nice she is. But she chose pro wrestling. And short, she's like 5 feet tall. But she can German the crap out of anybody, Yamala, anybody. I mean, she's Puerto Rican at that, from Yauco. So, so I thought that was badass. She's from the freaking campo, and she's freaking dunking dudes on their heads. That's freaking great. But another example of what we was just talking about, I had just flew in. I'll never forget this in a million freaking years. I had just flew in. I was wrestling in Nashville. Flew in from Orlando to Nashville, and I'm at the place, whatever. Now, this guy, I guess because I don't know, for some reason, they're like strict luchadors, meaning they don't lock up like this. You know what I mean? They lock up the other way. You know what I'm saying? So I had to adjust myself. It was all good. I wasn't really too concerned with that part. But this dude, I tell a lot of people there's a difference between, when you're doing it here in the States, American style, and you're formatting a match as opposed to luchadors doing it. It's just completely different. It's just different. I can't explain it. Nonetheless, I said, give me a few. I stood there chilling because I was telling him, because he thought I was just getting dressed or something. Because I did have to put on my boots. And, but I was actually thinking about the match. And being that it was that type of match where you had fans on the outside with belts, I was thinking, and I kid you not, as a matter of fact, I'll probably send you that match later on. Great crowd. And I barely did anything, but the crowd was definitely worked. They were all into it. I drew heat. Being there, Puerto Rican from the Bronx, and he was like straight luchador Mexican. The whole crowd is pretty much, 95% of them were Mexican. I'm going to tell you that right now. 95% were Mexican. They go by all the luchador rules. You got a 20 count on the outside of the ring.
Yeah.
they got announcers that announce certain parts. Like if the bad guys, the good guy will come out and say some stuff and be like, "Hey, yes, puto," and for Mexicans, that's a like kind of a diss in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's referring to the bad guy. So, and the crowd gets into all that, and so it's quite different. Though. But this dude, like I said, and I did it respectively. Though I didn't do it like Nazi or nothing like that. I did it respectively, and it turned out great. Most guys don't realize that when you do that, like you said earlier, approach them with respect and kindness, and you'd be surprised how far along that goes. And if he comes back snotty, chances are he's having a bad day or he's super tired. But regardless, don't dictate jack, because 9 out of 10 times you're gonna wind up bad. It really, really is. Unless you got somebody who's super nice and is willing to work with you and compromise, but still, you don't go out. Nobody that has, let's say, I'm gonna say, I don't know, 3 years in wrestling, to go up to somebody who has, I don't know, 15, 20, 25 years and tell them, listen, this, and that's gonna go down. This. You gotta be freaking plumb retarded to do that. Plumb retarded. Plumb retarded. Oh my God. You know what? I never told nobody this story before. Long time ago. Long time. Gosh, oh man, how old was I? I was super young. But this has to go with what you said about respecting the veterans. I don't know if you remember back in the days, The Undertaker, he used to put dudes in body bags and then carry them from the ring to the back, stand them up, of course. You gotta unzipper him, whatever. Apparently, this particular individual wasn't cooperative and did something apparently Undertaker did not like. Well, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of referees have them earpieces and things like that.
Yeah.
And they can talk to whomever, that's relaying whatever. Okay. Well, somehow I got to the back, and I'm right in front of a monitor with a bunch of like enhancement guys, whatever, and we're watching the monitor, and they stood up the body bag, and I seen a bunch of dudes rush the body bag and start punching it. Bam! Bam! From the head all the way to the torso, all that. And, beating it down. Damn. It was almost a universal. Let me put it to you like that. And if you know what I mean when I say that, if you're from the BX, you'll know what I'm saying. When they unzipped that dude came out looking like he was in a freaking octagon. His face is pow. He was toe up.
What the fuck?
But because, hey, listen, if you're in a major, well, it goes with any company, really. But in this particular case, you're in an arena, it's about 12,000 people, it's TV taping, and you're going against The Undertaker. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, you don't listen to that man, you assed out. You're like completely assed out. You don't listen to The Undertaker with the respect he has and the pedigree he has and so on. I'm sorry, he's one of their top guys. You don't respect his ass, you're screwed. And this particular guy was. Same night. No, actually it was the next night in Ottawa. And the Road Warriors and stuff. I had met Hawk already. I met Hawk, what do you call that? A while back. Oh my gosh. And it was like one of those convention deals I met him. But when I seen him again, anyway, his nose looked like it was just healing. I guess it was broken and it was just setting. It was just healing. He had no mask. That dude was toughing it out. God bless his soul. And this dude, the tag team he was working against, they were enhancements guys, yes. But you gotta know, do not graze his nose. Don't even go near his face. Apparently, this dude did. OMG. And if y'all know about Hawk history, let alone the Road Warriors, I'm sorry. Those are the last dudes, God bless their soul, you'd want to piss off on some shoot. You know what I'm saying? I'm dead ass, especially Hawk. Not that dude. That dude was, God bless him, he had a share of nose candy and whatnot, but
You mean?
Any dude.
Keep talking. I'm coming right back. Keep talking.
Okay, any dude, you know what I'm saying, that is that big, and his biceps are bigger than your head, you're gonna go against the grain of the man. Hawk, let me tell you what Hawk did. Your man Hawk, literally, I think he broke the dude's nose, if I'm not mistaken. And that's just for grazing his nose. Man, listen. But that goes for the cooperation part. But you straight. Believe you me, you good in the hood. You know what I'm saying? But my thing is, how do I say this?
Podcast.
The three things I want to get out there before I change the subject. I'm about to say something else real quick, but one is there needs to be a pro wrestling union. Because too many guys are getting lowball paid and getting told, well, we can't pay you because we're operating at a loss. No company, I'm going to say this straight off the bat, and this is the God honest truth, if none of them like it and they're watching this, I swear, hey, I'm not a hard back to fight. We could schedule a shoot. I was trained in shoot wrestling. That's how I started, actually, believe it or not. My trainer used to have shoot wrestling drills and amateur wrestling drills, a half hour apiece, and that was mad hard. When you're doing that 3 days a week, that's no joke. But that's beside the point. If anybody hearing this gets offended, holler at me. I'll fix it in a minute in the ring because you're on the real. There needs to be a wrestling union because too many lowball payoffs. There's no promoter that's gonna run 10 shows a month or 10 shows a year, 20, 30, and it's not going to be in it to make money. Especially if they're a big indie. There's just no way in freaking hell. No freaking way. And you know what? I learned this from an NWA promoter out in Tennessee.
Like Tony Khan?
Oh, dude, what Tony Khan's got?
Well, his daddy got money. And now
all his daddy did was like, yo, here's like $1 billion. Do what the hell you want. And I kid you not, father from Brooklyn was young. And I'm gonna get into Tony Khan too, believe it or not. But the wrestling union should, the people should have it to where if you're in it, you're guaranteed a good, decent wage, where you can pay some kind of utility bill, phone bill, rent, something, because there's no way in hell with over 200-something million people in the United States, 50 states in the union, there is no way in hell that you're going to tell me a big indie is going to come out, a big indie for that respective state, and they're operating at a loss where nobody's really making money. Only the names, only the big names are bringing. That's bullshit. That is complete BS. Listen, and I've had debates on this. Dudes is like, yo, the dudes that are making money in the Indies, they're lying. I says, I don't know how, because the majority of the time I'm with them. And I be seeing that envelope, and I'm like, damn, son, break me off. You know what I'm saying? And that's real in the field. And I'll never forget it. Case in point, one of my first TV tapings ever, didn't got paid $1. But I'm looking at my homie. And I guess it was more of a tryout thing, but still, I was being a little cocky. I wanted to get that bread. But I looked at my homie, God bless his soul, Chris Candido. He was my dude for real. That was my real homie, Chris Candido. God bless him. And he got paid. Yes, everybody knows Chris Candido, triple threat from ECW. He was former NWA world champion. Yeah, Chris Candido's that dude.
What happened to him?
You know what? Oh man, I got so many stories like Chris Candido, Balls Mahoney. I met Balls Mahoney when he was like 15, 16. Which like back in the day. Chris Candido. I was told a couple of different stories, but one of the stories was something about a blood clot in his leg, and they went in for the operation, but I think at that time it was too late. It messed him up. I don't know. There's something about a blood clot in his leg. And it's weird how the simplest of things can kill you, but yeah, Chris Candido was that dude, man. He was a big Ric Flair mark. I mean, back when he was a kid, I'm talking about like 13, 14, 15, when he was wrestling even young back then. And I don't know if you ever seen Chris Candido's entrance into the ring, but he does like a Ric Flair strut.
Yeah.
To an AC/DC track, yeah. So aside from the wrestling union, because I already said that, there shouldn't be that many companies in one damn state trying to run. I think it should be at least maybe just a few where everybody can make bread. And for the promoters, I don't give a damn, dude. Don't accept that story about a freaking promoter talking about the operating at a loss. Bull crap. Now, if you're paying your dues and you're just starting out in the territory and you're getting a little $40, $50, that's one thing.
That's something else. Right.
Yeah, it's another thing. It's another thing where they're super popular, media coverage, Fight TV, they get these IPTV, pay-per-view deals and so on, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook and all that. So they're doing good. And they got a big following. Don't accept no as a freaking answer or say we can't pay you this, that, and amount because, we're operating at a loss. We got expenses to pay. We got to pay the building. We got to pay the ring crew. We got to pay the referees. Don't accept that. You got a skill set.
I mean, it's true, but
yeah, but here's the thing. That's the mistake.
Making the money.
Yeah, you cannot count on the gate. The ticket sales. The guy's salary should be there long before the door opens. That being said, these guys need to realize they got a skill set. Freaking, you're a professional. Do not accept nothing less than what you are worth. Don't, because that's gonna trickle down like a snowball effect, and anybody else who's super experienced or who's been around for 10, 20 years, 30, whatever, they're going to get lowballed or they're not going to get pretty much anything only because they figured, why am I going to pay this dude $150, $200 when I can get the next man for $20 or $30 or might even for free as long as I let him wrestle?
That's a good point because they book like shit based on that too. They'll have shit, a shit card because hey, this guy was just $20 or whatever.
And you know what? It's not only about the shit card. I'm gonna tell you that because sometimes the company could be badass, and the ticket sales is like, oh snap, and they're making bread off of merchandise, and because the simple fact remains this company is run by,
right,
a Hall of Famer. God bless him because he's an amazing man. And so much respect and Christian attitude this man has. True story. Didn't get paid not one dime. Not one. And mind you, I signed a disclaimer, everything, all that, not a dime. Right. And it goes to show you sometimes it's not the shitty card because this card was stacked with some official. I mean, official matches where, they brought it. It was freaking badass. Even the females were wrestling like dudes. It was freaking phenomenal. So sometimes the crappy booking is not even the case. You know what I mean? So that goes without saying. But like I said, the wrestling union, the promoters with the lowball payoffs, and the wrestlers for taking those lowball payoffs, and The third thing I want to also say is learn your history. You know, learn the history of wrestling, period. I mean, I'm not talking about going back to the Roman era. Yeah, yo, I'm being real on that, yo. I'm being real on that. Yo, you know,
homework. This is something you're passionate about. Behave like
you know, and it's not so much as the homework part, but actually, yeah, that's a very good term. But it goes a little deeper to where learning history. I'm talking about watching the oldest wrestling match you can find. I found it from the 1920s, and they did it in a ring with no ropes. And back then, a lot of people don't realize their rings is hard as hell. So for them dudes to freaking get down like that, almost like a suit, in a hard ass ring, that's just mind blowing. And this particular man, no ropes, and they drew a crowd of thousands. Now this is in the 1920s, mind you. It looked more like a suit, like, you know, until, you know,
I'll be watching some of that.
until, you know, the business side came in more or less around that time, the 30s, 40s, but a lot of it was still, you know, straight up like, oh snap, you know. I watched guys like Lou Sands, Carl Gotch, George Hackenschmidt, if you can find videos on him. These guys, George Hackenschmidt from the early 1900s, Lou Sands, everybody knows who he is. Started his career in the late 30s, all the way through the 40s, 50s, 60s. 70s, I think he started training people in the 80s and so on. But and the Strangler Lewis, the Fabulous Lula. She's in the Guinness Book of Records for holding the title the longest, 26 freaking years.
Yeah, terrible Moolah.
Yo, you stupid. No, you didn't. But I'm just saying, you know, learn the history. You know, like Abraham Lincoln was a shooter. He had over 100 matches. A lot of people don't. He lost one match, but Abraham Lincoln was an actual pro wrestler. He literally, when it was a shoot, and he had over 100 matches won, lost one. You know, he had his own catchphrase and all that. Literally, and that's straight up and down. And I found that out. I was like, oh hell yeah, that's what's up. You know, learn the history. You know, like I tell people, what was the NWA originally called? Nobody and their mama knew what it was. And I'm like, no. They kept saying National Wrestling Alliance. I'm like, nope. It wasn't called that.
Are you serious?
No, it was not.
You know, there's still a large majority of people who don't even know at all.
Yeah, but check it out though. It was actually called National Wrestling Association.
Right.
And then sometime in the early 1940s, Vince McMahon's grandfather and this particular individuals separated because they had a boxing wrestling deal, and Vince McMahon's grandfather started Capital Sports Promotion, which went on to become the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, which went to become, you know the deal, yeah, absolutely. And it's too many damn W's, you know, but at that time anyway, and so he separated from that. The dude that stayed, they changed it to the National Wrestling Alliance, back in 1940 something. And it's so weird though, because back then, you know, you had different promoters in different territories that were part of the whole booking committee of the NWA, and they all had to vote. You know, and there was so much money to be freaking made. How in the blue hell Dusty Rhodes in his rookie year, late 60s, mind you, talking about how he received an envelope and they had like $700. That was his pay, $700. And I'm thinking $700 in the late 60s. I'm sorry, that's some serious freaking bread. And this goes to my point that there's money to be made, because he didn't go and wrestle for no NWA when he popped off. He didn't go wrestle for no. He did do AWA. I will admit that. I seen him do that. But he started out working a particular territory, and your man got like what, $700? Get the hell out of here! That's why these promoters now, sightsee dudes, that practice that promoters keeping their money has transcended into this era where guys now are taking a lot of these young dudes like pendejos and be like, you know what, this is how it really is. There's no money in the indie circuit. And the sad part is it discourages them from taking bookings because now you got a lot of talented dudes who do deserve these bookings. And, traveling from whether it's from California to Texas, Colorado, whatever state you're traveling to and whatnot, or even Mexico or Puerto Rico for that matter. And they'll be like, well, why am I going to go there if I'm not going to get paid like that? That's a bad mindset to have, because you got to deal with the crappy part of the business too, just as the experience, just to have it under your belt so for future reference when you have all that experience under your belt and you got a couple of years under you and you got confidence in the product you're presenting, you know your worth. You're going to be like, what? I know people 2-3 years in wrestling that they're booked all the way on through next year. Literally every weekend, twice on every weekend. So you got about dudes that is wrestling like 8 matches a month, 10 matches a month. Yes, but because, they know their worth, they're not just going to accept also, a low ball payoff. That's another thing too. So one piece of advice I would probably give, and my downfall, and I would admit this, and this is part of my advice that I'm going to give, and this is probably the realest line I ever would have said in my life.
What's that?
I was busy dealing with my relationship at the time, chasing shorter like a pendejo. I was whipped without a belt. I ain't like, back then, I'm going way back. Way back. Not like this. Oh, man, I got some war stories for you, girl, but that's beside the point. A lot of them didn't understand the business, and some of them even hated wrestling, and one of them even sabotaged. I mean, it was crazy. One of them actually, I'll never forget it. They liked wrestling, but they didn't like it. It took their attention away from them. Had the cops come to the venue just to get me to go home and fake it like I ain't had no license or something, just to give me drama. I've had some wild stuff happen, yo. And my advice is, if you're gonna get in a relationship and wrestling is what you're gonna pursue, make sure that the individual you're with knows that there's going to be some serious sacrifices being made. And you have to be able to deal with it on an emotional level, a physical level, of course, because when they come back home, they're going to be beat to hell. And a lot of these guys...
Get up in puppy, like...
Yeah, you're right. And a lot of these guys... Yo, for real. And a lot of these guys got regular jobs, so you gotta think they're putting in 40 hours a week plus doing what they're doing 2-3 days out of the week. So they're working constantly from Sunday to Saturday. So if you're gonna be with a female, yes. If you're gonna be with a female, make sure that she understands your choice, the path you're taking, and if she doesn't. Yes, I totally agree.
Because honestly, not every man is okay with it either. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually started wrestling school when I was 18. And I left when I was 19 because my boyfriend at the time was not okay with it. And stupidly, I was young and naive, so I was like, okay. So I left it. But
what school?
Yeah.
What school?
We talk about that later. I'm actually about to end this. If you could just finish up the last thing you have to say.
Okay, Mama, no doubt.